Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zakiya Wilson-Kennedy, and I'm so thrilled that you all have elected to join us on today for the webinar, LSAMP, a Game Changer in Cultivating STEM Talent. I'm honored to have been invited by the Louis Stokes Midwest Regional Center of Excellence to lead this session in celebration of 30 years of leadership in diversifying science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, also known as STEM. I am joined by a fantastic panel of academic leaders from 4 representative alliances across our country. Dr. Joseph Genz, Dr. Eduardo Lopez, Dr. Nguyen, and Dr. Catherine Dinitra White. You will hear from them momentarily, but before we give them a chance to share the great work from their alliances, I want to share a little bit more about LSAMP and its role as a game changer in the U.S. STEM ecosystem. All right. The Louis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation was commissioned by Congress in 1991 to address the underutilization of talent from the African American, Native American, Hispanic, and Latin American, Hawaiian and Pacific Islander, Alaskan Native, and other minority communities in our country. It was commissioned to lead the charge in diversifying STEM disciplines and industries in our country by intentionally developing the talent within these target communities. During this month of October 2021, we are celebrating the 30th anniversary of this great work. Dr. William McHenry served as the first program officer for what was then the Alliances for Minority Participation, otherwise known as AMP, and led the awarding of the first 6 alliances. After his tenure, Dr. A. James Hicks took the reins and oversaw a dramatic expansion of the program at the National Science Foundation. He recently retired with a portfolio of over 50 alliances, serving over 600 US colleges and universities. This program is impacting generations of minority scientists and engineers and has graduated over 800,000 bachelor's degrees in STEM, with approximately 45,000 bachelor's degrees being produced each year. This, I'm sure you will agree, is a tremendous work, and I hope that you all will agree with me in recognizing that this is truly a game changer for the STEM ecosystem. So how does LSAMP do this? The Louis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation is an alliance-based program. The program's theory is based on Tinto's model for student retention, and the overall goal of the program is to assist universities and colleges in diversifying the STEM workforce by increasing the number of STEM bachelor's and graduate degrees awarded to populations historically underrepresented in these disciplines. Again, these are African Americans, Hispanic and Latin Americans, American Indians, Alaska Natives, Native Hawaiians, and other Native Pacific Islanders. The LSAMP program takes a comprehensive approach to student development and retention. Particular emphasis is placed on transforming undergraduate STEM education through innovative, evidence-based recruitment and retention strategies, and relevant educational experiences in support of racial and ethnic groups historically underrepresented in STEM disciplines. The LSAMP program also supports knowledge generation, knowledge utilization, the assessment of program impacts, and dissemination activities. The program seeks new learning and immediate diffusion of scholarly research into the field. Under this program, funding for STEM educational and broadening participation research activities includes research to develop new models in STEM engagement, recruitment and retention practices for all critical pathways in STEM careers, and research on interventions such as mentoring, successful learning practices and environments, STEM self-efficacy studies, and the use of technology to improve learning and student engagement. Overall, the LSAMP program provides funding to alliances that implement comprehensive evidence-based, innovative, and sustained strategies that ultimately result in the graduation of well-prepared, highly qualified students from underrepresented minority groups who pursue graduate studies or careers in STEM. During today's webinar, we're pulling back the veil and highlighting several alliances as a representative sample of the great work being conducted throughout all of the 600 colleges and universities in over 50 alliances within our country. To that end, we will now allow each of our panelists to share a little bit about their work. Each of them has tremendous work that they're conducting within the alliances within their state or region. We will start with Dr. Catherine White, who represents North Carolina. Dr. White, if you would please share.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Wilson-Kennedy. And thank you for the invitation to represent North Carolina today. I am here to represent the North Carolina LSAMP STEM Pathways and Research Alliance. We have been in place since 1993. So our LSAMP in North Carolina was originally written by our current chancellor, Dr. Harold Martin. And we have been in place moving forward the entire time. In 1996, the NC LSAMP was established. And then in 2020, we received funding for the LSAMP SPRA, which is the STEM Pathways and Research Alliance. Our provost is Dr. Burrow McEwen, and under her leadership, we have done some great things in LSAMP already with our new round of funding. We have 8 partners in our alliance, and they are listed in the left-hand corner. You can see that we have A&T is the lead institution, Fayetteville State University, which is an HBCU, North Carolina Central, which is also an HBCU, North Carolina State University, University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, University of North Carolina at Charlotte, University of North Carolina Pembroke, which is a Native American serving institution, and Winston-Salem State University, which is also an HBCU. The diversity of our institutions give us the opportunity to ask some phenomenal questions about students across North Carolina. Our goals are also listed. Like most of the LSAMPs, we really want to increase the number of minority students who are not only entering the STEM pathway, but transitioning through that pathway and entering higher education and the workforce. We have several points of pride. We were able to pull out a few of those to mention today. Since 1998, we have had a tremendous increase in the number of underrepresented minorities going into STEM from our institutions. And we are very proud of this. Our goal, again, is to make sure that we are increasing that number. We have had 7 bridge to the doctorate programs. We've also made some wonderful partners, and we rely very heavily on those partnerships to keep our students and our faculty engaged. And our alumni are all over the place. They're in government, industry, academia, entrepreneurs. So please follow us. Our social media information is there, and we would love to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. White, for sharing the wonderful work happening in North Carolina through LSAMP. Next up, we will have Dr. Genz, who will share the Islands of Opportunity Alliance.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be on this call today with you. My name is Joe Genz, and I am the current director and a co-PI on our Islands of Opportunity Alliance program. I am also the lead on the social science and education research project as well. Just a few notes about this, that our LSAMP program covers a very broad geographic region. In the east, we're in Hawaii, and out in the west, we're in the Republic of Palau. And that distance is almost 5,000 miles. And to the south, we're connected to American Samoa, which is 2,500 miles. So just for comparison, New York to LA is about 2,900 miles. So we're really big. I also wanted to note that in terms of the political status of the student demographics that are connected to us, of course, we have Hawaii as a state, but we also have 2 territories, that's American Samoa and Guam. We have the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, and 3 states that are in free association with the Compact of Free Association, and that's the Republic of the Marshall Islands, the Federated States of Micronesia, and the Republic of Palau. So we're really diverse. The region actually encompasses 9 distinct indigenous communities with their own languages, where often the students are speaking English as a second language. And in many cases, because of the very small island nature of some of our communities, our LSAMP partners, the campuses in several cases, are the only tertiary opportunities for those students to move into a 4-year pathway. So just very briefly here, our emphasis within the URM is Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islanders. This program was founded in 2006. We're on our 3rd grant cycle right now. Our lead institution is the University of Hawaii at Hilo, and our chancellor is Bonnie Irwin. So we are connected in total to, there are 5 4-year institutions. So in addition to Hilo, on Oahu, we have University of Hawaii at Manoa, Chaminade University, and Hawaii Pacific University, as well as the University of Guam. Those are our 4-year institutions. And then we have a strong feeder mechanism through our 2-year colleges. And this includes, there's 6 of them: American Samoa Community College, College of the Marshall Islands, College of Micronesia, Guam Community College, Palau Community College, and Northern Mariana College, as well as Guam Community College. I think I mentioned them all. So we have 11 partners. What's also notable is that after the original foundation in 2006, the Hawaii community colleges broke off into their own Bridge to Baccalaureate program. And so we're still affiliated with them. So in total, our expanded network is up to 18 institutions. So just briefly here, we do have some key partners within the Alliance. Specifically, University of Guam has a person that's dedicated as our research experiences coordinator. Chaminade University has a team of specialists that is helping with cultural-based curricula and a data analytics program, which I'll talk about a little bit later. And Hilo and University of Guam have a team of faculty that is helping to train students on our social science education research project. The 2 quick highlights for us right now. One is our data camp. This was launched last year during the pandemic, and Chaminade University took a lead on this by essentially allowing students from across the Pacific region to be engaged in a virtual data analytics research experience. It was a really brilliant move to enhance our notion of a broad STEM learning community. And then we have been taking some steps. I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, about launching STEM learning communities on each campus that are very culturally grounded. And on the slide, I've mentioned a few of the indigenous names of those communities. So I'll be able to touch base on some of these points a little bit later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Genz. Amazing work. Next up, we have Dr. Lopez, who's going to share about the Alliance in Puerto Rico.
Hello, everyone. I'm Eduardo Nicolau. I'm a professor at the University of Puerto Rico, Rio Piedras campus, and I am the director and one of the co-PIs of the Puerto Rico LSAMP. Our PI is the president of the University of Puerto Rico, Dr. Mayra Olavarria. So in general, the PRLSAMP was established in 1991. And as many of us, the main goals are to contribute to strengthening the diversifying the national STEM workforce, and also to maintain a highly competitive STEM education and research enterprise in Puerto Rico. Like most of us, a very large and diverse student population, over 27 years of experience with the program. We are 13 institutions overall. So these are 9 campuses of the University of Puerto Rico. And then we have also 4 partners from the fast-growing private institutions in Puerto Rico. The program, just very quickly, the program was established first as an island-wide collaboration to promote STEM education and to essentially identify the problems and needs in terms of the STEM education. As the program evolved, we moved to more of a consolidation phase where systemic reforms were implemented across the island in terms of everything related to STEM education. In early 2000s, we established the Bridge to the Doctorate program. So far, we have had 13 cohorts of the Bridge to the Doctorate program with great success. 40% of the students that have participated of the Bridge to the Doctorate program have already finished their PhDs. 18% have finished their masters, and other 35% are currently in the PhD pipeline. This leaves us with only 8% of attrition, which is great for our program. Another point is that 85% of these students that completed their PhDs are currently working on a STEM related job. Okay, so we have contributed to knowledge transfer, effective practices, and high quality STEM education in Puerto Rico. And more recently, we are very happy about this because more recently, with the new phase of the program, we will conduct educational research to really assess what are those elements, and I'll be able to talk a little bit more about that. What are the elements that we believe are contributing the most to the success of our students? So within our alliance, the STEM enrollment is around 21,000 students per year. From these 21,000 students, almost 3,000 are graduate every year. Another point of pride is that from the last 6 cycles of the ERFP program, 35% of the students that received the ERFP from students from Puerto Rico were part of the PRLSAMP. So we are very, very proud of this. And also, these are the NSF statistics that say that at least 20% from the top 33 universities that graduate Hispanics PhDs in the United States, they came from a PRLSAMP institution. So I will say that 1 out of 4 students in your institutions, most likely they came from PRLSAMP institutions. And also, our students are the principal motor, right? So here I have a few examples of our students that have been very successful. Dr. Dion Hernandez, she's a collaborator of our program. She was recently appointed as the Chief Technologist for Human Exploration and Operations Directorate at NASA. Dr. Jose Gonzalez is currently a subject matter expert at Ed.D. It's a pharma company. Dr. Ileana Rodriguez is one of our collaborators as well. She's an assistant professor, very successful at UPenn. And Dr. Juan Ramirez Lugo, who is currently the co-director of the Puerto Rico LSAMP, and he's also one of the co-PIs. So this is a summary of the PRLSAMP program, and I'll be happy to take questions at some point during the webinar. Thank you.
Awesome. Clearly, just from the 3 alliances thus far, we see how LSAMP has really been a game changer. Dr. Kim Nguyen will share with us now more from the Indiana Alliance.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kim Nguyen. I'm the project director of the Indiana Louis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation. I am also co-director of the Louis Stokes Midwest Regional Center of Excellence. I just want to share a little about myself and where and how I get involved with LSAMP. My involvement with STEM education and human resource development has spanned over 3 decades, from STEM outreach to middle and high school to STEM teacher training, such as the Robert Noy Teacher Scholarship Program, the Woodrow Wilson Teaching Fellowship Program, and so on. Through all these projects, broadening participation of underrepresented minority students and diversifying the STEM workforce continue to be the guiding principle of my work. In 2003, I was fortunate enough to be the campus coordinator for the LSAMP Indiana, led by Purdue University for 10 years. And then in 2016, under the leadership of the Chancellor at IUPUI, Dr. Nasser Pater, IUPUI won the first LSAMP award for the Indiana LSAMP. The Alliance is young. We are in our 4th year of the 5th year, first cycle of funding, and we are growing strong. Indiana LSAMP consists of 3 research universities: Indiana University at Bloomington, IUPUI, and Ball State University, along with 2 regional campuses of IU Indiana University at South Bend, Indiana University Northwest, and a community college, Indiana in Ivy Tech Community College at Indianapolis. Our intervention program that leading to retention and graduation of our students is built upon the best practice that recommended by the LSAMP model, such as summer research program, summer bridge program, peer mentoring, and definitely we are underscore the role of faculty mentor research. The continuing success of Indiana LSAMP during our first phase is basically generated by the commitment of the local leadership at each individual campus and our faculty who committed to serving our students. For the last 4 years, we have seen impact. We have graduated our alliance with 5 institutions, graduate 1,428 bachelor degree in STEM for the underrepresented minority students. What we are proud most is the engagement of faculty mentor and their support for our student achievement. In the last 4 years alone, 400 plus of our LSAMP scholars have made over 500 presentations across conferences. And in the recent LSAMP alumni survey, 57% of our LSAMP graduates have think about, have entered graduate and professional school. All of our alums are working in jobs that related to their STEM training and STEM degree. Our work in the first phase of LSAMP is challenging because of COVID. But we have much more to do, and the impact is now evidenced through the alumni. So we hope for a better year ahead. And thank you for the opportunity to share about Indiana LSAMP.
Thank you, Dr. Nguyen. As you all can see, we have a fantastic panel here today. You've heard a little bit about their work from each of the alliances represented today. And again, they're a representative sample of the great work happening throughout our country. So I have a set of questions for our panelists, but I'm sure you have questions too. And so I'm going to start us off, and I invite you at the same time to use the Q&A function to share questions that you have for our wonderful panelists. So I'll start off with my first question, and to do so, I actually would like to stop sharing my screen so that we can really focus in on the responses from our panelists. All right, so this year we're celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Louis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation. In the portfolio of LSAMP projects, some alliances are more senior and others are newer. All of the alliances are using evidence-based strategies to cultivate student talent. What are some key lessons that you've learned through your alliance from the use of these strategies and how your alliance has evolved or is evolving based on these lessons learned? We're going to start with Dr. Lopez and let him start us off with the response to that question.
When I was thinking about this question, so I would say the number one lesson that we have learned over the years is that our students, they really need us, right? And because of this, we don't take this job lightly. Having a support system where we really care about the well-being of the students, not only academically, but also personal, we have found it's essential to the success of our students. The literature is clear in regarding the benefits of these students, for example, having a mentor. But I can say more anecdotically that sometimes they don't feel the entire confidence to open up and speak out their issues with their respective mentors. And so in our office, we have created an environment of understanding, inclusion, compassion that has really served to keep the students at close range and in a very well supported. With the new phase of the project, as I said before, we are very happy and excited that because even though we know that we are doing something well, right? Because our numbers are out there. We would like to really pinpoint what are those elements of our model that really play a major role in the success of our students, right? What we would like to do is to inform the community in terms of what are the activities or interventions that are most important for our population. We suspect that there are some cultural and social aspects related to the success of our students, but we would like to find a way to really assess if this is true or how is it works. And I say this because in the Hispanic culture, right, there is a strong commitment to family and to elders. And at least in Puerto Rico, it is very common that our abuelitas will always tell us to go ahead and you have to study and be successful. So again, this is all my impression, but we are on the way to scientifically assess those elements that play a major role in the success of our students.
There really is some powerful action research that are being conducted throughout our alliances as we're learning how best to support students, even as our students evolve, right? The students of today are a little different than the students of a decade ago. And so certainly there's so much learning to be had and to be shared throughout all of this. Dr. Nguyen, the Indiana Alliance is one that we certainly love to hear about. Please share some of your thoughts related to the question.
As I mentioned earlier, Indiana LSAMP is a brand new alliance. We are in our 5th year of the 5-year cycle of LSAMP. So we have not had the opportunity or enough evidence to assess the impact and evaluate the success of our intervention programming on retention, graduation of our LSAMP scholars. But as a director of the project and has seen how we build a new alliance, I want to share with the audience a couple of lessons we learned during the first 5 years of our LSAMP operation, mostly related to program sustainability. And they are, first, in order to sustain an alliance to serve our students and reach our goal, we need to create a stable infrastructure of project management on each of the partner campus. It is critical to the consistent implementation of the alliance strategies. The campus director often are faculty member who has research and teaching responsibility. They need administrative assistance. They need someone part-time or full-time, help coordinate the student recruitment, the student research placement, project communication, and develop programming for student activities. So those are critical to have a very well-run machine at each campuses. Secondly, offering a small amount of resource to create lasting collaboration with other units on each particular campus, especially collaborated with advising group, student affairs group, and definitely set aside some money to have a reliable institutional research person who help you collect data, which is the way to assess the success of your program. I'm speaking about these two particular elements of institutional support for sustainability because they are the two small expenses that we leader of the LSAMP forgot to include when we build the budget for the LSAMP grant. So we understand the infrastructure need to be sound, the operation need to be smooth because communication is the key to get everyone on the same page and moving ahead to support our students. Those are the two advice I learned from the last 4 years of working with Indiana LSAMP.
Now, those are some powerful lessons learned. One of the things that I so admire and that I'm so proud about the alliances is how each member institution is working together and how you're able to leverage resources and learn from each other and build that infrastructure of support that then gives us not someone working independently, isolated, but instead having collective impact through the power of the alliance. I think that's so impactful. Thank you, Dr. Nguyen, for sharing those thoughts. Dr. Genz, can you please share some of the lessons learned within your alliance?
Yep. Hi, thank you. So I'm just going to start off by saying I'm going to echo what Eduardo mentioned about the value of the mentored experiences. Definitely mentored research experiences has been the heart of our program since its inception in 2006. And we have, multiple forms of evidence that engagement through STEM with these hands-on research activities that's guided and mentored by faculty, but also by professionals in the STEM fields, community members doing science-based work, and peer mentors, including graduate student mentors, is a key factor in moving forward the persistence rates and getting our students to actually graduate. And just for our general focus that we have with these mentored research experiences, we definitely cover all the fields of STEM, but generally throughout our alliance, we tend to converge on research that is focused on the stewardship of the environment. Our current social science and education research project, we're in the 4th year of that right now, as well as our external evaluation study. We are uncovering stories from our LSAMP students across the Alliance about the supportive systems and the constraints on their pathways toward their STEM degrees. And I'm going to give a shout out to my students because we're actually mentoring 4 students right now, our Pacific Islander students, and they're presenting their poster presentation on this research in 2 weeks at the main conference, and they actually won a top 25 abstract position. So I'm really excited for them. There's my shout out, students, if you're watching. So an overall finding so far is that the students that our LSAMP students that want these research experiences and getting their degrees, they're doing this because they want to have some benefit for their home island communities, meaning that they are committed like 100% to enhancing and empowering their own communities. And for us in the Pacific, that means conducting research in culturally appropriate and ethical ways, invoking notions of reciprocity and respect, and invoking Indigenous understandings and practices of STEM into Western STEM education and research. And at the same time, that commitment that is so foundational to their worldview, their commitment to their community's well-being, is also a source of disruption in their academic pursuits, because most often the needs of their families will outweigh their own individual academic ideas and their pursuits. So our alliance has been making some very concrete steps. Again, this started in 2006, but in these last couple of years, I think we've really moved things forward a lot. about enhancing culturally grounded research experiences and mentorship through the efforts of our on-the-ground campus coordinators. And I hope I can have a chance to elaborate that in a few minutes and maybe one of the next questions. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Genz. Dr. White, can you share some from your perspective from the lessons learned through the North Carolina Alliance?
And
Dr. White, I think we're having a little bit of problem with your connection.
I'm going to echo your echo because mentoring has been very, very important. That's a lesson that we've learned. One of the things that we realized was that in the past, can you hear me okay?
We're hearing you better now. This is good.
Okay, wonderful. My apologies. One of the things that we have learned really focuses on mentoring. In the past, we have had a big focus on faculty mentoring students, but it looks like we were actually doing more advising of students than mentoring students. So we have broadened our definition of mentoring and our mentoring activities. So we are working with near-peer mentors, in addition to faculty mentors. We actually have on one of our campuses, we have a living learning community, a residential learning community, where our LSAMP scholars serve as mentors for our incoming freshmen. So that has been very powerful for us. Also really focusing on broadening the students that we reach. So we're very interested in working with our actively engaging our veterans, because they tend to be left out of the story, out of the conversation sometimes. Also, we have a big focus on our transfer students. We love to make sure that our transfer students are moving from the community colleges into our four-year institutions so that we can keep them in the STEM pipeline and keep them moving through. And one more thing I wanted to mention, a Research Alliance, we have the opportunity to have a separate research project through our Alliance partnership. And we are really focusing on understanding why some students who look like they should be in STEM have decided to completely not deal with STEM at all. So we're really interested in learning from those students and sharing those lessons with you all as our data comes in.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. White. There's some powerful lessons being learned by multi-level mentoring, it sounds, through your Alliance, and we look forward to hearing more about that. So I have a question next for Dr. Genz. LSAMP cultivates the talent of a diverse, globally engaged scientific and technological workforce. What types of approaches are you using in your Alliance to prepare students for the global STEM workforce? Specifically, are there opportunities for students to engage in international experiences? And what does that mean for the students that you're serving in your Alliance in particular?
Right, thank you. I will do my best to keep this to 2 minutes. What I really want to highlight is the need that we have to fully integrate the cultural dimensions of our diverse Pacific students into our teaching and research. And again, we span 9 Indigenous communities. So getting our students into the global STEM workforce is definitely important. And we know this is defined by NSF as critical, but that's actually been the hardest thing for us to do. The direction I feel that our Alliance is moving in is to support our students to empower them as game changers in their own communities by essentially reassessing what we mean by success. And one of the most pressing issues we have globally is climate change, right? And the immediacy of sea level rise, this global issue. And we know that some of those immediate impacts are here in the Pacific, especially among our low-lying atoll communities that are just a few feet above sea level. And our Pacific Islanders are acutely aware that they contribute negligibly to greenhouse gas emissions, but they're going to be potentially the world's first climate change refugees. So the way that we're approaching that major global topic, as well as other ideas, is essentially to try to support an epistemological shift in raising up the value of Indigenous science and ancestral environmental knowledge to work side by side with Western STEM. Again, this has been part of the vision since 2006, and we're making really concrete steps. And we know that, for example, Pacific navigation is maybe the quintessential example here about Indigenous science that's been practiced for thousands of years, this non-instrumental wayfinding. Most of our activities are grounded in this vision, and the more that our students are committed to contributing to their communities in ways like this, we're hopeful that they would then contribute to the global STEM workforce, but from and for their island communities. Very quickly, an example of this. On our 11 campuses, we have STEM learning communities, and we are really focusing this year on developing and refining some of the names of those communities, which essentially reflect the Indigenous values of those communities and the alignment with LSAMP. Just two examples for time. At Hilo, we have the Keholoa program. Keholoa is a Hawaiian expression. It's a part of a longer proverb that means the long fishing line. And this was a term that was generated years ago when most of our students were coming through the marine science program, doing things like aquaculture, fish pond science. And because of that fishing type of metaphor, it also was a way to think about nurturing students while still kind of plumbing the depths of inquiry. Another quick example, in the College of the Marshall Islands, this is composed of all Marshallese students. They came up with a name for their STEM learning community called Rimito, and Rimito translates as people of the sea or navigators. And also there, they actually don't have a STEM degree, but it's an associate's degree, and they get a certificate in marine science and then transfer on. So they, in a sense, are the people of the sea navigating their way through their STEM journey. And that's the name of their community, their STEM learning community. So just to sum this up, our STEM learning community coordinators, they're working with the students to essentially reflect on their identities as Indigenous scientists entering Western STEM and how they can balance their academic interests with their commitment to their communities. At the same time, we're also excited about the impact of Indigenous STEM on academia. And the one example I'm going to provide is that I'm really proud of the fact that we have students that are majoring in Indigenous studies like Hawaiian studies or Micronesian studies with an emphasis on, say, fish pond aquaculture. It's an Indigenous expression of science. And I feel like this is a small step that we've been making to put into action that epistemological shift in valuing Indigenous STEM. Thanks, I know I went over.
You did, but the thing is that was such a powerful representation of how we empower students to be game changers in their communities, to be able to apply their STEM learning to the questions and the problems that they're passionate about. That's what we're here for. And so I'm so grateful that you shared that story, even though you went a little over. We're so happy that you shared that with us. I'm going to ask Dr. Nguyen the next question, and then I'll circle back around. Richard, I see your question. I'll circle back around to that in a second. So Dr. Nguyen, collaboration is an important feature of the LSAMP Alliances. The partnerships between institutions and a state or a region position the Alliance to have a greater impact on that region. Can you share how the Alliance is impacting your state or region to increase the collective impact of this work, of diversifying the STEM workforce, of diversifying STEM in general? I think you're muted, Dr. Nguyen.
I love to talk about collaboration because collaboration is the essence of our work. LSAMP is about collaboration to achieve our end goal of preparing underrepresented students that are equipped with knowledge and skill to enter the STEM workforce. Recognize the need for increase the collective impact of the LSAMP. The National Science Foundation in 2012 called for a proposal to establish Louis Stokes Pilot Center of Excellence. And the Pilot Center Excellence is a vehicle, the mean to communicate, to connect. And at that time, the Midwest Regional Center Excellence, the Midwest Center Excellence, or Louis Stokes Midwest Center Excellence was the only center was selected to establish as a pilot to connect people, connect alliances, to reach out to institutions that have not been a partner of LSAMP, to contribute to the cause of broadening participation for minority students in STEM. In my view, the LSMCE, the original Center of Excellence, is the game changers. We have connect people. We have bring in the collective impact, sharing best practice, working with students and prepare them for the best possible opportunity for graduate school or employment in STEM. In my opinion, it is one of the game changers that's supported by the National Science Foundation. The current center, the Louis Stokes Midwest Regional Center, is the second cycle of the Center of Excellence. We offer the platform for faculty, for students, and for research scholars to learn about best practice of LSAMP, the LSAMP impact across the country, and the success of the LSAMP student in the STEM discipline. But most of all, we're serving a vehicle to disseminate information about the work of the LSAMP communities and how we have broadened the participation and seen the impact on all sectors in society. So in my view, we have become the game changer, build bridges, build platform for people to come together to advance the cause of broadening participation. In the last 2-3 years, we have sent out thousands of messages and connecting all institutions that participate in the LSAMP, the Center of Excellence, and also recently LSMRCAs have helped establish the LSAMP Alliance Network. The LSAMP Alumni Association is formed and will continue to give back and mentoring the student who is behind them. So with the work that we do in the LSMRCE, I think NSF have given us the opportunity to be a game changer for LSAMP. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Nguyen. I'm gonna change up these questions a little bit and jump to our next question for Dr. Lopez, which is, how are you disseminating and sharing the work of your alliance? Certainly with that, what Dr. Nguyen just shared with us, the power of our alliances is really the nature of the collaboration and the ways in which we're building partnerships to leverage the work that we're doing so that we have stronger, more collective impact. Part of that is dissemination. And so Dr. Lopez, can you share with us some of the great work that you all are doing through your alliance with disseminating and sharing the work that you all are doing?
Yeah, thank you. So in terms of dissemination, I must admit that most of the dissemination that we have conducted over the years, it's been more locally, right? We use traditional methods of having a web page with pertinent information in terms of the outcomes, Facebook pages, LinkedIn, and other major social media. We use those outlets to disseminate our work. Also, annually, we publish a paper where we communicate the most relevant efforts and outcomes from the program. And one interesting way that has resulted very beneficial to us is the governing board meetings, believe it or not. In these meetings, we have all the stakeholders from the different institutions And we have found it's a great opportunity for us to inform our community and primarily the higher academic management about our efforts, strategies, results, and the importance of the program, right? So that's very important to us. Also, we conduct what we call the Puerto Rico Interdisciplinary Scientific Meeting. It's the largest annual conference for undergraduate students in Puerto Rico with over 1,000 participants each year. And in this conference, we obviously take pride of the most recent accomplishments that we have had during the year. And in that way, we also keep informed the community of learners. More recently, we have been placing a lot of effort in broadening our presence within the community. And as such, we have been participating in conferences regularly, like Understanding Interventions, the Herein, and other conferences around, where we have the opportunity to not only disseminate, but also interact with other peers and other alliances. We have found many similarities in the way things are done in the different alliances, and I believe that if we come closer to each other, we can have more impact. You know, share strategies, data, and other things. We are also immersed in it's a big effort to make sort of a review paper to summarize the almost 30 years of history of the Puerto Rico LSAMP program. It's not an easy task because when the program started, nothing was really electronic, right? So we are digging on boxes of papers and pictures and all of that to rescue all that history. And as I said before, and I'm very excited about this part, with the new phase of the proposal, we will be able to really generate the knowledge that will be disseminated and the best practices that will be disseminated to the public in a broader way, because with the new project, we will be able to really go into journals and peer-reviewed journals to publish our results. So those are a few ways in which we are disseminating the work that we do.
That's amazing. The use of peer-reviewed journals to highlight the work that we're doing is so important. It's so important because one, we need to be able to share and then to leverage even beyond the institutions where we're currently at, right? We're doing great work, but we really need to be positioned to share that so that one, we're able to learn from that and build upon that, but also share with people that are not currently in our alliances. And I think that's so powerful. Dr. White, there's some really great work with mentoring that's going on in the North Carolina Alliance. How are you engaging faculty to support the work of your alliance, both as mentors, but in any of the ways in which you're using them to help sustain the efforts? If you could just share with us a little bit about what's happening with faculty in your alliance and how you're engaging them.
Well, thank you so much for that question. Again, of course, the mentoring piece is really important. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. That is key. So in terms of mentors in the research lab, and again, our student mentors, we have really intentionally focused on collaborations with faculty. So we actually established faculty working groups. And these are opportunities for faculty to connect with us from any of the campuses. And if they have ideas about how they would like to work with LSAMP, or when we figure out ways that we can work with them, we reach out to the faculty and connect with them. And for example, we actually have a mentoring project going on now with one of the faculty members who her expertise is in mentoring. So that has been wonderful. We're also working with some other faculty in biology and in the social science and education areas to really help us understand science capital and how our students' science capital is allowing them to stay in STEM, or is how it's impacting their decision not to remain in the STEM workforce. So those are some of the big ways that we are making sure to connect with our faculty and make sure that the faculty understand that they are valued and we need those partnerships.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Richard Harris asked the question in the chat. And I'm going to direct this one to Dr. Genz, and I'm going to say you got 30 seconds or less to respond. Just as a primer, how do you think we can support Indigenous students more directly who feel challenged in leaving their native geographical locations to attend STEM programs and colleges not close to home?
All right, 30 seconds or less, right? We have this exact issue across our region. And so I think there's some immediate things that can happen and then super long-term things. So in the short term, it's about having like either transfer fairs or bridge programs, ways that they can start coming in. But I think in the longer picture, like this may be like a generational type of thing, is enhancing their part of their community to come with them, or they come and then they bring family members and it ends up being a home away from a home for them. But that's actually things that take place outside of the university, a lot of times out of our control. We've seen this progression in a few of our Pacific Island communities, but it's taken a few generations where there's now a wave of transfers coming in. So it may not be, there may not be a short-term fix, at least that is immediate. Yeah.
I hear you. It's a process, right? And working with students, all of these things take some time and figuring out how to engage them in new ways and helping them to get outside of their comfort zone. Dr. Lopez, 30 seconds or less. Even though the question isn't necessarily geared towards Indigenous students, I know that there are tons of Puerto Rican students all over the country studying great things, right? You all are like powerhouses within your island, within your alliance, and sending students out. Are there some lessons learned that you would like to share in terms of prepping students to move outside of their home areas for continued study? You're on mute.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so I think that one of the lessons learned in terms of the students being able to go outside the island, one thing that has worked very well for us is sending and promoting that students go to, for example, REUs in the United States. Sometimes, and I can say this by my own experience, right? The first time I traveled to the US, it was frightening to me because we manage everything in Spanish here in the island, right? We mostly use English as a second language. So it was frightening. And that was my first travel to the US was my REU experience. And it was life-changing. It was life-changing. So one of the strategies and one of the lessons learned that I will say is that to promote students to go out and give them the support, right? Back in the day, there was not much support when I was in my bachelor's, right? But nowadays there is a lot of understanding, not only in terms of the academic aspects of the REUs, but also the social and psychological aspects of the experience. So that's one thing that it's a lesson learned.
Awesome. This has been so much fun. We don't have much time left. Celebrations like the one that we're celebrating this year at LSAMP really gives us an opportunity to look back and reflect on where we've come from. Dr. Nguyen, I know that there's an upcoming book that's coming out highlighting the alliances and the good work of LSAMP. Do you want to do a quick plug on that book? I'm going to close this out with highlighting a couple of the other celebration activities that will be coming down the pike, but do you want to highlight anything from that book that's coming out soon?
The LSAMP special edition about the 30th anniversary of SAMP is about ready to be released. 16 of the papers had been accepted and printed available on frontier of education, of STEM education. No, we don't have enough time to talk about the engagement that we have when we invite people to participate in the dissemination of their work, the best practice, as well as research being done on the impact of LSAMP. And I would defer that into the conference when we have more time. But the engagement is real. The future of LSAMP is promising. And I believe that we will get there. We will double the enrollment, double the graduation rate of all our students that we serve. Thank you, Dr. Wilson.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, we have less than a minute left in this hour, which is completely flown by. Certainly, we are at this moment celebrating 30 years of excellence through the LSAMP alliances throughout our nation. As a component of our celebration, which the Louis Stokes Midwest Regional Center of Excellence is leading us through, is an upcoming annual conference on October the 22nd to the 24th. And then next week, we also have a webinar before that conference, Perspectives on a Progression and Institutionalization of LSAMP Best Practices. You can meet us again next week on October the 15th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Central Time. If you haven't yet registered, you have to do so to join us to continue this conversation of learning from each other and celebrating the great work of our alliances. Without further ado, I thank you for spending this time with us today. We certainly didn't have enough time to do all the things we wanted to do, but we're grateful that you were with us today, and we look forward to continuing our conversation throughout this month of celebration. Thank you so much for joining us, and please thank our panelists for really leading our conversation and sharing the great work that they're doing in each one of the alliances that are representing our conglomerate of alliances within our country. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome. And Deb Cole, our fearless orchestrator coordinator, has a survey that she needs us to fill out. Please check it out in the chat box, and please take the time to participate in that survey so that we can learn how to make even these sessions better. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for joining us.
I feel like we need